Today, I'm ranking every number 2 running back in the NFL under the scenario that every single number 1 running back in the NFL took a vacation. Let's not even say they got injured, but we're saying they're out of the picture. They won the lottery. They decided to retire from football. They took a vacation. Whatever you want to say, if we took away every single starting running back in the NFL, where would we rank their backups in fantasy football? This is always the tricky part of trying to do a fantasy football handcuff list. I've always said it's more of an art than a science because we have to balance that standalone value with the injury contingent upside, right? Kenneth Gainwell ranks higher than Tank Bigsby overall because we know we can maybe get some useful flex weeks from Kenneth Gainwell. But if Bucky Irving goes down and if Saquon Barkley goes down, I, at least, and probably you too, would be ranking Tank Bigsby ahead of Kenneth Gainwell. We are focusing on the latter scenario today, going 1 through 32. And with that, let's get after it with the RB1, if every single starting running back ceased to exist. TreVeyon Henderson, guys. 17.6 PPR points per game during the second half of last season. And it was even higher, I should say, when Rhamondre was specifically out, weeks 9 through 11. Just a 3-week sample size, I get it, but 24.3 PPR points per game. Tough to call it too fluky. You know, he's hitting the big plays. I get it, but he's also the sort of running back that's built to hit those big plays in the first place. And the volume was there. 75, 84, and 88% snap rate in those 3 games. That is workhorse stuff, guys. Only competition behind Rhamondre Stevenson, things called Jam Miller and Lan Larison. Second-ranked scoring offense last year. We know TreVeyon, yes, has had some issues in pass protection, but when Rhamondre is not in the picture, we've seen the Patriots willing to leave him out on the field across all 3 downs. So TreVeyon Henderson, in my opinion, would be the RB1 in all fantasy football if every starter ceased to exist. The RB2, Rams running back Blake Corum. Guys, no Kyren Williams, no problem for Blake. Could we see a little bit of Jarquez Hunter in this situation? I guess, but the fact that he was even out there on the field at all in the preseason when Sean McVay basically left every player and starter of consequence back in Los Angeles, I do think tells you all you need to know here. So no, we haven't seen Blake catch a ton of passes in Los Angeles, but the Rams as a whole don't throw the ball to the running backs all that much anyway. And why? Yeah, they got Puka and, Devontae Adams and a bunch of good tight ends to get the football to. So I don't think Corum is necessarily like the second coming of Jamal Charles or something like that as a receiver, but I also think he's a really good athlete who can still catch checkdowns and things of that nature. So look, number 1 scoring offense last year. Vegas has them ranked as number 1 scoring offense going into this year. If Kyren Williams was out of the picture, Blake Corum, my RB2 with his only competition being Jarquez Hunter, would be a candidate to probably lead the league in overall touchdowns. My RB3, Eagles running back Tank Bigsby. You take away Saquon Barkley from the picture and you have someone who is worse at football, okay? But if you force an alien who has never watched football before to just watch Saquon and Tank Bigsby over the last season, definitely not the last 2, but just in 2025, I think that alien would think pretty favorably of Tank Bigsby, okay? And why not? The dude's been awesome, okay? The last 2 seasons, because it's not even a small sample size. We're not doing the Keaton Mitchell sort of thing here, with all due respect to Keaton Mitchell. 44 running backs have 200-plus carries over these past 2 seasons. Tank Bigsby is 8th in yards per carry, 1st in yards after contact per carry, 2nd in tackles avoided per carry, and 5th in explosive rush rate. His issue has been Saquon's issue. That's a success rate, all right? He'll strike out a couple of times looking for that home run. Tank Bigsby isn't the type of guy to always take the 4 yards up the middle. He'll go outside and sometimes get tackled for a loss. Sometimes they'll rip off a 30-yard chunk play. It looks awesome. So RotoWire offensive line ranks have the Eagles number 2. It's a sentiment reflected generally around the industry. Getting a little older, please, for the love of God, stay healthy. Lane Johnson, maybe not quite as dominant as we've seen in past years, but still pretty much anyone's idea of a really good offensive line. We are expecting at least a little bit of a step forward from a scoring perspective. Yeah, still do have to deal with Jalen Hurts around the goal line. But the thing is, guys, when you do look at the Eagles over the course of these past 4 or 5 years, their running backs don't get many carries at the 1-yard line. They're near the bottom of the league in that. But between the 2 and 5-yard lines, you actually do see them near the top of the leaderboard with teams like the Lions. So still going to have plenty of, goal-to-go opportunities. I don't think we're going to get too much pass down upside. I was surprised, though, in the preseason to see a true every down role. Tank did not leave the field while working alongside Andy Dalton and de facto starters, as I use air quotes for our audio listeners, when he was out there. I think it was probably more of a preseason, hey, Tank, just play these series and Will Shipley's going to come in after you. But it was intriguing. We did almost see another borderline drop turned interception. Bigsby had 2 of those his rookie season with the Jaguars. Dalton threw a low ball and it actually hit the ground on replay, but Tank tried to scoop it up, accidentally dropped it, and then kind of threw it to the defense who took it all the way back to the house. So I'm still not thrilled about Bigsby's pass down upside. We do need to keep an eye on this reportedly minor toe injury, but man, love the O-line. Very good, explosive talent. We know it's a run-first offense that would be signing up to get this dude 20-plus touches per game. And the only backfield competition, Will Shipley and whatever is left of Dameon Pierce. Tank Bigsby, my RB3. RB4, Bills running back Ray Davis, ladies and mostly gentlemen. 2 games as lead back over these past 2 seasons. Week 6 in 2024, Monday night game. I'm still bitter about these alleged insiders not giving us a better heads up, but I digress. 20 carries, 3 catches, 58% snap rate, had north of 150 total yards. Great performance Monday Night Football against the Jets. Then in week 18, I think also against the Jets last year, James Cook and Josh Allen, I think they might have played a game to keep their starting streak going or whatever. A snap, I should say. But James Cook wasn't out there. It was Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. 21 carries for $151 on the ground for Ray. Also chipped in 2 catches for 23 yards and a score, 64% snap rate. The production in games against the Jets, and in particular week 18 one, isn't really what matters. But man, 23 touches in both these games. If you guys have been following me along on this channel from the beginning, it's been month and a half at this point. First of all, thank you. But I did do a previous handcuff kind of list. And yeah, I'll be honest, I just didn't get fully through the Ray Davis profile as well as I should have. I should have been more clear with the week 18 game as well. It's kind of a blind spot I have sometimes, guys. Fantasy season ends in week 17. It's usually around the holidays. I'm driving back from my in-laws in New York or wherever like that. I just don't get eyes on every game in week 18 like I do the first 17 weeks of the season. So I'll miss a few things. Quentin Johnston having 180 yards against the Raiders week 18 in 2024, I think it was. So hand up, that was on me. I think Ray Davis deserves to be one of the priority handcuffs in drafts. So we got here eventually. I apologize again for the initial video, not being more on the train. But yeah, kind of buried another cool part too. We're talking about first team all-pro kick returner Ray Davis, man. He's a demon back there. So perennial top 5 offense. Like the Eagles, we do have to worry about Josh Allen, and again, vulturing away a lot of those touchdowns at the 1-yard line. But man, particularly with Ty Johnson being banged up with a knee injury right now, Ray Davis, for me, pretty much clear-cut consensus top 5 running back if, again, every starter decided to be out of the picture for the season. Guys, RB5 and beyond, very, very interesting stuff. But I did want to quickly give a shout out to our friends over at RotoWire, because we are trying to be your one-stop shop for all things fantasy football this season. If you're trying to get a little bit smarter, get a little bit better, maybe just get a little bit more respect from your loved ones and friends by winning your fantasy football league, we really are here to help. So we do have, again, a fantastic live draft assistant that you can take all of our ranks and all of our strategies directly into your home league drafts. Also going to have plenty of waiver wire and start sit help all throughout the season. And I'm continuing to churn out written content. I got specific Yahoo, ESPN strategy guides up at RotoWire.com and breaking down every single thing you need to know from the preseason. So truly doing everything possible to grind and make your life easier as a fellow fantasy football diehard. If you want to support the show, want to support yourself, want to hopefully support your bank account, check it out. Code Ian35 for 35% off any RotoWire subscription. Back to the topic at hand, RB5, guys. I'm going with Steelers running back Rico Dowdle. Oh, Ian, he's the starter. He should be Jaylen Warren. Fine. Go with Jaylen Warren then. Rico Dowdle or Jaylen Warren, they are the same person to me for the purposes of this study, because I just think it's going to be pretty close to 50-50. And guess what? If it's not, if one guy goes down, the other one should be a complete workhorse, especially given the fact that it seems like a matter of when, not if. Caleb Johnson is not even on this team anymore. So we had Travis Homer and Lou Nichols finding the field first in the preseason game. Yikes, life does come at you fast, Mr. Caleb Johnson. So look, with Rico, I'm giving Jaylen Warren the benefit of the doubt here, but maybe it is going to be Rico just as a straight up starter. Regardless, guys, 2 players who I think are fully capable of working across all 3 downs. And as much as Jaylen Warren could take some of Rico's goal line and short yardage work, I think Rico could also take some of Jaylen Warren's pass down work. Over these past 2 seasons, Different situations, not one for one, but Rico's not the zero in the passing game. In fact, he only has 5 fewer total PPR points than Jaylen Warren in the exact same amount of games over the past 2 seasons. So he's a capable receiver. The reason why I couldn't get them up higher just kind of comes down to the offenses, all right? We're talking the Patriots, Rams, Eagles, and Bills, 4 teams that I don't think anyone would be overly surprised about seeing as a top 10 scoring offense. I am a little bit more concerned about the Steelers. That said, I've talked about it. I mean, having these old, elderly, geriatric quarterbacks under center really has been a boon for fantasy success at the running back position. When I've looked at, I think, the 20 instances of an age 38-plus-year-old quarterback starting 10-plus games, their running backs have ranked inside the top 8 in overall targets 75% of the time. We've seen Rodgers lead top 5 units, both in Pittsburgh and even in his last year with the Jets. And that was even in a season where he had Garrett Wilson, and they brought in old man Devontae Adams, old friend, I should say, but also, kind of old man relative to wide receivers. They brought those guys in, though, to also, assist with the charge, and we still saw Breece Hall and company rack up a ton of targets. So whether it's Rico Dowdle or Jaylen Warren, both have sky-high handcuff upside. And when I am in kind of round 7 or 8 of my draft, had some, mock drafts going on. You can find those over at RotoWire.com as well. But this is the backfield I'm kind of willing to break that wide receiver train for. Because I love drafting the wide receivers rounds 4 through 8 or 9, especially. I think that's the pocket where we get the most value position-wise. We can get a late round QB later. I kind of like going early round tight end with either Bowers or Loveland. I like getting 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds if possible, and then kind of getting some handcuffs. Where I'm willing to break it is for a Steelers running back or a Washington Commanders running back. Moving on to RB6, I'm going Bears running back Kyle Monangai. So it's a little complicated because he hyperextended his knee, but he is tentatively expected to be ready to go for week 1. Assuming that he is going to be near 100% as the season gets going, guys. It's a Bears offense we love, and it's a Bears offense that we saw be willing to actually hand the backfield over this dude without DeAndre Swift in the picture. So, yes, it was against the Bengals, so take the production with a little bit of a grain of salt, but 29 touches for 198 total yards on a 74% snap rate, and that, again, entertaining as hell Bengals-Bears shootout from last season. So, after that, we did see Ben Johnson more willing to feature Monangai on a week-to-week basis, averaged 13.7 opportunities per game throughout their final, 10 or 11 games of the season. So, it's still DeAndre Swift's backfield. I don't think a takeover is imminent or anything like that. But as we saw, man, you do take away Swift from the equation. It is very much the Kyle Monangai show. Only other backfield competition is Roschon Johnson. Salvon Ahmed, who low-key had a nicey touchdown last week, man. It was like a screen, and he ended up cutting back across the field. It was one of those plays where because it was Salvon Ahmed, no one gives a shit. Same thing with Devin Singletary. He had an amazing run. But if it had been Tyron Tracy or Roschon Johnson doing it, it'd be Dynasty truthers going crazy about it. So just saying. Kyle Monangai, RB6. RB7, this is where it gets tough, okay? I really do think a lot of you will agree if you try to do this yourself with these top 6, for the most part. After this is where some of you might start yelling at me and saying some mean things, which is fair. It's America, after all. At least I'm recording in America. You might have to be careful somewhere else. I am not sure what the YouTube comment laws are in other countries, to be very clear. Anyway, RB7, I got Commanders running back Rachaad White, guys. I think Bill is technically the starter at this point. I do have Bill Krosky-Merritt ahead of Rachaad White in my updated ranks over at RotoWire.com. Look, to give Rachaad White credit, as much as we all wanted to see him bench for Bucky Irving for good reason, because 2024 Bucky Irving was a hell of a drug. Rachaad White joins Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara as the only running backs to catch at least 200 passes since he entered the league. In 2023, Rachaad White was the RB10 in PPR points per game. In 2024, even with Bucky eventually getting that job, RB23 finished for Rachaad White. I think even with a healthy Jacory Krosky-Merritt, we're going to see Rachaad White in that Austin Eckler plus sort of role. Probably not getting 250 carries, but 150, 160, and 50 plus targets could go a long way standalone. The question is what happens in this scenario if Krosky-Merritt was out of the picture. Could Kaytron Allen just take the early down work and Rachaad White's role doesn't really change? Perhaps. But this isn't a Keaton Mitchell or a Ty Johnson or a scat back that we really do think is incapable of running between the tackles. We'll see how good of a fit White is in the scheme, but they signed him on knowing this was going to be the case, and then they didn't. draft anyone of substance, they must feel relatively okay about Rachaad White. It's an offense that was top 5 in scoring when we had a healthy Jaden Daniels in 2024. I don't like losing Laramie Tunsil, but man, Rachaad White would be by far, he is, period, by far the most accomplished running back in this room. You remove Krosky Merritt, Robert Henry, UDFA, okay, had a couple nice runs preseason week 1, respect, but then Jerome Ford, Jerry McNichols, and again, Fat Man Katron Allen. That's literally his nickname. I'm not trying to insult the man. Hilarious nickname to have for a really athletic running back, by the way. Rachaad White is my RB7, thanks in large part to the combination of rushing and receiving upside. And that's what we're going to see for this next handful of guys. I still think these running backs can completely take over the backfield, which tends to be half the battle in these handcuff situations. Takes me to RB8, Woody Marks. Again, might be getting some pushbacks because, yeah, he didn't get too much going last year with his full 3-down workhorse role. But we did see him handle at least 15 touches in all but 2 of his final 10 games. I mean, Houston gave him the full 3-down role ahead of Nick Chubb. Obviously, their Joe Mixon return had that issue going on. Woody Marks wasn't great. But here's the but. Hear me out. The Texans ranked 25th in running back yards before contact per carry. That's the same stat that we use to rightfully give an excuse to Ashton Jeanty and Quinshon Judkins, who I certainly believe are better than Woody Marks. But could Woody Marks just be okay? And last year he was bad because the offensive environment was bad? I think that'd be reasonable. He caught 24 balls for 208 yards. He caught 261 passes in college, man. I even got to double check that. Like, that blew my mind when I saw it. Maybe I just read it wrong. He was at Mississippi State his first 4 years, and then he ended his career at USC. Yeah, it's correct. Unless Sports Reference is pulling one on me. 261 receptions, man. He had 83 as a sophomore at Mississippi State. The pass down ability is there. He's not a small dude. We saw the Texans lean into it, give him that full down role. And there's no one else on the depth chart we have to worry about. Obviously, in this scenario, David Montgomery's out of the picture, okay? When you look at Woody Marks, the backups behind him are Jar Jar Binks Jordan, Noah Whittington. In all these situations, there could be oh my God, our starter went down. We need to add someone else. And I'm going to go through some teams later where I think that's an active possibility, and I have moved them down these ranks accordingly. But man, pass catching ability, the team actually is willing to give him a 3-down role. Like, we know that. We saw that last year. And I think the team could just be really good. All right. I don't know about the offense, and that matters more than the team being good. I get it. We're trying to score fantasy points, not real life win points, but you'll see what I'm saying. The next handful of running backs we're getting to could be really bad teams. I think the Texans could be in a position with that defense where they're just rolling dudes in November and December. And if Woody Marks is thrust into action, he could be a nice little, post-hype sort of comeback player. I think he's a great pick in that RB4 range because he actually has, a little more handcuff. I mean, I would say standalone value than some of these other guys, at least potential for it. And again, the handcuff upside, pure injury contingency wise, very, very good spot. RB9, Raiders running back Mike Washington. Okay, I don't know if we all saw it. It was just a preseason highlight, but he had a nicey 50-plus yard run, straight up the middle. Guy showed off the tackle breaking ability and the acceleration. And yeah, this is a really big, incredibly athletic dude. There's a thing called relative athletic score, RAS score. It just does a good job taking, some of the height, weight, and then the jumps, and also the agility drills, and also the straight line speed. And it puts it all together to give you one score. Okay. Before we added the agility testing, Mike Washington was first in a database that goes back to 1987. There's over 2,300 running backs in this sample, and this dude was first before the agility testing. You add in the agility testing, and it was still 28th. That's incredible, man. The offense isn't great. That's what's keeping Washington down here a little bit, but knowing that he is already cemented as the RB2, that's not something we can take for granted with these rookies. Antonio Williams could very well still have an awesome NFL career and everything. And there's reason to like him in Washington. He was, I think, the 6th wide receiver to go into the game in the preseason without Diggs or McLaurin even active. We look at these depth charts early, but they need to go prove themselves. Mike Washington has already proved himself in the eyes of Clint Kubiak and the Raiders, guys. He was easily the number 2 running back, and he even worked ahead of the incumbent pass down backup Dylan Laube in the pass game. 4 drives together in the preseason. Washington ran 10 routes, and Laube only ran 2. The offense isn't great, but of all the bad offenses, Browns, Jets, Cardinals, Dolphins, Raiders, Titans, I tend to give the Raiders more of a benefit of the doubt because I believe in Clint Kubiak more than a lot of those other play callers. And I think when you have the number 1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza, if and when they go to him, I think it's going to be 2025 Saints-esque, where it's a team that even if they're dead in the water in terms of the playoff race, is still going to very much be trying to put their best forward throughout the later parts of the season and build some momentum into 2027. So maybe that's me coping, drafting too much Brock Bowers and not giving the Raiders the same treatment as I've given the Cardinals and the Jets throughout this offseason. But I do think it makes a level of sense. And I do think Mike Washington is one of the better late-round running backs you can stash on your bench because he's one injury to Ashton Genty away from, again, skyrocketing up the ranks in a hurry because he is the clear-cut RB2 in what should be a very nicely designed Raiders run game. RB10, I'm going with Panthers running back Jonathon Brooks, and I've already gotten some pushback on the old Twitter sphere saying, Ian, how are you even having the Panthers RB1 listed here as the RB2? I hear you. But to my best knowledge, Chuba Hubbard still has 2 legs. I don't think they've gone with the peg leg route yet based on this hamstring injury. As we saw with Jordan Tyson, sometimes we hear about the hamstring injury and then a couple days later we find out they're out 2 months. If that's the case, then okay, maybe I can more readily admit that Chuba is the actual RB2 here. But for the purposes of this, I'm going with Brooks as the RB2. And honestly, I think Chuba would probably be, even if you wanted to reverse the rules, I wouldn't move Chuba up that much. At the highest, RB7, probably. If Jonathan Brooks ceased to exist, like how high could we rank Chuba in this? Probably RB7. I don't think I can get him over Monangai because of how good the Bears offense is. So that's the range. And you can say that's the same range for Brooks. All right. I'm ranking these guys, but as we all know, there's tiers going with it. But we're being provocative today and doing a 1 through 32 rank. I'm not hiding behind tiers. You know what I'm saying? Jonathan Brooks. Is he good? I hope he's good. It'd be a great story. Number 1 running back in his draft class. Texas film's fun. I get it. We don't know. Same thing with MarShawn Lloyd. We're buying into the guy. We're buying into the opportunity. We don't know for sure if he's good. And that does cause a problem because we can be a little more sure that the Panthers offense is not going to be good, guys. Vegas ranks them 26 going to the year. Their offensive line is spending over $25 million more than the next closest group in 2026 spending. Yet, you look at some of the rankings around the industry, RotoWire has them as a bottom 5 unit. There's other groups that do too. ETR is not high in them. Other websites that I'm sure are great and have their fine processes are higher on the group. I'm not an O-line expert. I am going to go ahead and side with my company, RotoWire, and I also do want to give a lot of respect to the fine folks that established the run, specifically Brandon Thorne. Neither of them are that high in this group, and the big factor that is also impacting them is starting right tackle Taylor Moton starting the season on the NFI list due to that blood clot. So Jonathan Brooks, we have big questions about the offense. We at least have questions about the offensive line, the scoring upside of the offense, I should say before. He should have a near every down role with Bryce Young in the preseason game. First team offense, guys. Preseason doesn't matter. I freaking know. But the first team reps give us a way better indication of the depth chart than the unofficial BS that the interns put out. 78% snaps for Jonathan Brooks alongside Bryce Young. Trevor Etienne really wasn't a factor. Jonathan Brooks, RB10 here. It'll look low if he truly is just a game changer. And again, I think you can move him up as high as RB7. That offense, it does matter. Trevor Etienne, A.J. Dillon, only other running backs on his depth chart. A.J. Dillon, by the way, led the Panthers in receiving yards week 1 of the preseason. People forget. RB11, I'm going with Buccaneers running back Kenneth Gainwell. I actually had him a little bit lower. I got some good feedback from folks when I kind of soft launched this over there on Twitter. I think they brought up enough good points where I moved them up. All right. I would like to think that I can show you my freaking show sheet. I started this morning. Yeah, I got 2,300 words in the show sheet. All right. And that's me. I don't freaking plug my writing into cloud or whatever AI machine you want to use. All right. So I'm not saying I'm going to be right, but I'm very much trying to do a good process. Okay. But people bring up a good point. Why should I just stick to my guns and say something else before I hear something that is a good point? You know, I have also gone on record saying my fade of DJ Moore is wrong. I still prefer Christian Watson, Mike Evans in that range. That could also be wrong. Either way, do not let me be the reason that you're not drafting DJ Moore. His price is fine. I was wrong. You're smart. I'm ugly. You're better looking. We all get it. Back to Kenneth Gainwell. Reigning Steelers team MVP, Kenneth Gainwell, right? He caught 70-plus passes last year. One game without Jaylen Warren. Hopefully you woke up early for that 9:30 kickoff, got him out of your lineup. 19 carries, 99 yards, touchdown. 6 carries, 35 yards. Awesome performance. My only concern for Gainwell, because I think the talent is good enough to be up there, arguably in the top 5. Like Rico versus Gainwell. That's close. My problem with Gainwell is Sean Tucker. I think Sean Tucker could take, if Bucky Irving's getting 15 rush attempts per game and he ceases to exist, which is the scenario we're doing here, I do think Tucker could take maybe like 80% of those, man, and Gainwell's roles and change that much. We want receptions. We want targets over carries. It's 2026. A lot of us are in full PPR formats. I get it. I just get a little worried about some of the reports out of camp where it's seemingly very intentional about talking about Gainwell making his moves in the receiving facet of the game, okay? Which is great, but the only reason I have Gainwell this low is because I do think Sean Tucker could make this more of a 55-45, 60-40 situation. It'll be in favor of Gainwell. We'll have Gainwell ranked higher, but that's the bigger concern here is Sean Tucker being a nuisance on the goal line and even being a nuisance on the early downs. Gainwell being more of this 10 to 12 carry, 5 to 7 target guy, as opposed to the workhorse running back, y'all. RB12, I'm going with B. Robinson from the Falcons. In this case, it'll be Brian, okay? Played all 8 snaps alongside the starters here in the preseason, which was good to see, man, because he is one of these guys where we have to actually wonder, was he going to be given the actual pass down work? And maybe, again, it's a similar Tank Bigsby conversation. Like maybe they just said, Brian, get out there with the starters. We'll put in other guys later. If it was an actual week 4 regular season game, they would have more sub packages and stuff to work with. But Tyler Goodson, Nathan Carter, these are the only other competitions they got for Brian Robinson, man. Only a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. It was less than $1 million guaranteed. I think the offense could suck, and that is a little bit problematic. But guess what? We're starting to talk about some offenses that suck. Brian Robinson is still the clear-cut next man up in a run scheme that we have seen good things from over the years. Not like the Browns' offenses were absolutely killing it. No, Brian Robinson is not prime Nick Chubb or even somewhat prime Kareem Hunt, but, you know, Jerome Ford had a good season the 1 year where Nick Chubb was knocked out of action. If there's anything I'll give Stefanski at least some leeway with, it is that I think this, you know, probably a wide zone, I guess, would be his main sort of run scheme. I think there's probably a little more there, which is good because we're not expecting a ton from Brian as a receiver. That said, has caught 73 passes during his career. It's not, you know, a Chris Rodriguez sort of situation. And man, this dude runs hard. RB1, this is one of my favorite stats. Percentage of carries to get at least 3 yards after contact. I think this stat gets skewed sometimes. You break an arm tackle with line of scrimmage, you run for 70 yards. That's 70 yards after contact. When I think of the stat, I want guys who are like pushing the pile. So I do percentage of carries with 3+ yards after contact. Brian Robinson, RB1, man. I think Bijan was RB3, so he's obviously the man. I'm worried about the offense sucking, but man, I'm not worried about any competition of Brian Robinson behind Bijan Robinson. So that's why he comes in as my RB12, excuse me. RB13, give me Cardinals backup running back Tyler Allgeier, all-time NFL leader for most career touches without a fumble. PFF's second highest graded pass blocking running back in 2025. His one season without Bijan Robinson, 1,035 rushing yards on 4.9 yards per pop. Top 12 career offensive success rate, but the offense is probably going to suck. maybe the preseason Mike LaFleur performance is going to carry over and everything will be fine. Nathaniel Hackett's there too. And intriguingly, when they talked to Nathaniel Hackett in later July, the first running back name out of his mouth was actually James Conner, which is the most Nathaniel Hackett shit ever, but I digress. My two concerns for Allgeier, and the reason why he's not higher, is the fact this offense could suck. Again, Vegas has him ranked 31st. We could have Carson Beck, loser baby, under center in December. And, he looked good in the Hall of Fame game. If his elbow's in a better spot than it was kind of in that Miami year, maybe he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I don't know. But we have an unproven rookie quarterback, likely under center in the most important weeks of the year. If that schedule eats Jacoby Brissett and just the team as a whole alive anywhere near the way we kind of think it will. And as long as James Conner is here, man, I can't assume he just doesn't exist. James Conner has been a damn good running back throughout his career. Right now, he's not on the pup. He's participating in walkthroughs, but has no fixed timeline to return to full 11-on-11 team drills. But I'm just wondering, Trey Benson's banged up too. It sounds like he could be on the outside looking in. We're all kind of assuming, it seems like, to me at least, that James Conner is not going to be on this roster. I mean, when Jeremiah Love actively has his high ankle sprain right now, wouldn't that compel you to keep the guy who already took a pay cut to stay on the team? I kind of doubt any team's going to make this big offer for James Conner, and the Cardinals will listen if they do, obviously. But if James Conner is out of the picture, I could get Allgeier up to RB7 would probably be the highest. Again, that's that cut line. I couldn't get him higher than Monangai. No James Conner. I'd be fine ranking Allgeier as RB7. I can't get too much higher than that as things stand right now. RB14, I'm going with Jordan Mason here, guys. Again, had a nice conversation with Matthew Collar, ace Vikings beat reporter, and it did get me off Mason a little bit as just a, premier RB sleeper. He's still going cheap enough at that kind of RB3-4 borderline where I think it's fine, but Collar's point was more so it's going to still be 50-50-ish between Jones and Mason, but he would like to see Mason get a little bit more run. Whether that's actually going to happen, remains to be seen. But man, he was good last year. Fifth in yards over expected per carry, 8th in yards after contact per carry. The offense just sucked. I mean, the Vikings and the Raiders had the same amount of running back rush attempts inside the 5-yard line. You add in a dual threat QB like Kyler, I think that could help make up for a less than stellar offensive line, to be nice. When we saw Aaron Jones out of the picture, and a lot of this was with Carson Wentz under center, and it was a little bit of a better offense than what we saw with J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, that bar was quite low, but Mason was fine. RB16 and half PPR points per game. But the problem is we saw Xavier Scott steal the pass down work. And that's the issue here. After we get past Allgeier, the rest of these guys, I am dubious, are going to be trusted as a full 3-down workhorse, okay? Damon Claiborne and even Xavier Scott, who did it to Mason last year, will be taking some of that pass down work. We can live with 15 to 20 carries in a hopefully improving offense from a good running back like Jordan Mason, but having 0 pass down work, man, very, very tough to overcome. That's why Mason comes in as my RB14. RB15 is Jaguars. There we go. Running back Chris Rodriguez. Pretty similar profile to Mason, honestly. Offensive line is a concern in Jacksonville, but it's an offense we can still see being well schemed and overcoming it, still being this, top 10-ish scoring unit. Just a really solid running back, man. 3 running backs last year had 100-plus combined carries and targets with 0 drops or fumbles. Chris Rodriguez, Rachaad White, and Brian Robinson. Hard hat, lunch pail running backs right there. C-Rob was good last year, man. 4th in success rate, which for those that don't know, real quick, success rate, it's just measuring. It's taking into account down and distance on your rush attempts, okay? If you get a 3rd and 1, you gain 1 yard. Goes down as a successful play. If you get 1 yard in first down, that's not a successful play. So it's a good way of helping out players like Chris Rodriguez who are maybe used in these less than stellar situations, His yards per carry maybe isn't as high because every time he got out there, it was a short yardage, run first mentality, 8 defenders in the box. So Liam Cohen, quote, talking about Chris Rodriguez, he's a glass eater. Love that. Had over 1,300 rushing yards as Liam Cohen's lead running back in Kentucky. The problem is he's only got 6 receptions in 35 career games, only 20 in 45 college games. One of the more low-key injuries going around right now, though, because God knows there's so many we have to keep track of. Brutal. But LaQuint Allen Jr., the Jaguars ace, 2-minute pass protection running back. He is sidelined seemingly for the rest of training camp with a soft tissue injury. And as we know, sometimes those things tend to linger into the season. So unfortunately for C-Rod, I'm very bullish on Bashaw Tootin, more so being the guy to take those snaps. And that is why he's down here at RB15. But hey, C-Rod, man, in this, again, made up fairy tale land where every RB1's out of the picture. No, I don't think C-Rod's becoming this like locked and loaded top 12 running back weekly, but the Jaguars are really good again. C-Rod scores 12 touchdowns. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing ever. This one was tough. RB16, Lions RB, Isiah Pacheco. I think I started this exercise. Like last night, I just kind of wrote the names down. I think I had him RB24 or 25. I went through it again this morning, wrote up my notes and all the guys. I think I got him up to RB11, and then I kind of settled in the middle at RB16. I do not think Isiah Pacheco is good at football. I think that's generally been true, though, throughout his career, and it didn't stop him from being an upside RB2 in a really good offensive environment with the Chiefs. He caught 44 passes in 2023. And the Lions are probably the most fantasy-friendly environment for a running back. Maybe not as much in the year 2026 when their offensive line is looking more average to good as opposed to the world-beating unit that, they kind of were, at least for a second there. I don't think Pacheco is good, and he's now dealing with an MCL sprain, which is not going to help. He was coming back in his defense from that dislocated or fractured fibula, whatever his horrible lower body injury was. I mean, he looked like a shell of himself coming back from that injury. Maybe it is a Javonte Williams situation where he just needs a little more time and he'll be back to looking more so like himself. Again, I don't love the fact that we now have an MCL sprain on top of that to worry about, but in his defense there. I haven't said too many good things about Isiah Pacheco, but that is because this is more of a volume play than anything, guys. And it could be there because Sione Vaki is the next man up in this backfield. He has a broken nose and an eye poke he's recovering from. Wild training camp injury there. Jacob Sailors is the next guy up. I wouldn't be surprised if something happened to Gibbs if the Lions tried to make a move at running back. And again, that's the case for a lot of these offenses, so I'm not trying to completely lean on that crutch here, but the Lions did seem pretty diligent about signing Pacheco and not calling him next second coming of Barry Sanders or anything, but pretty clearly lining him up to be their RB2. They did nothing in the draft to suggest otherwise, nothing in the rest of free agency to suggest otherwise. And even with them banged up, they haven't made some sort of big free agency addition. Pacheco, if he's fully healthy in this offense that we all expect to be top 5, we know he can catch and we know he can fall into the end zone from the 1-yard line. This is the most like dead zone handcuff running back argument yet, but I think it's warranted. And I think Pacheco deserves to go right in the middle because it's the best offensive environment we could ask for with one of the pure real life talent situations, worst running backs we could probably ask for. But guys, 16 down, I should say. We got 16 more to go here, breaking down where every RB2 would be ranking if the RB1 was completely out of the picture for a 2026 season. First, though, a quick word to our friends over at DraftKings.
Fantasy football season is right around the corner, and DraftKings is bringing you their biggest best ball contest ever. We're talking a massive $20 million in total prizes, making this the largest best ball tournament in DraftKings history. And this year, not just one, but 3 players are going to walk away as millionaires. And right now, our partners at DraftKings are giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $20 million best ball contest for just $25, and you'll receive a bonus best ball ticket to play again free for a share of $20 million, giving you a second shot to be crowned a millionaire. It's simple. Just draft your team once, no weekly management. Let your top scorers automatically start each week. Every breakout star, every clutch play, and every touchdown counts towards your shot at a share of $20 million. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter a lineup for the $20 million best ball contest for just $25 and get a bonus ticket to play free for another shot to win big. That's 2 shots without ever setting your lineups again in DraftKings' biggest best ball contest ever. Draft one, get one only on DraftKings. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most states. Restrictions apply. One per customer. Enter the Best Ball 20 million headliner contest to get one bonus entry. $25 entry fee required. Reward expires at contest lock September 9th, 2026. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. Sponsored by DraftKings.
Shout out to DraftKings and shout out to RB17 here. Packers running back MarShawn Lloyd. This was another one I got some pushback on. People were just saying Lloyd is a little bit too low. And again, maybe he is. You could argue what's really the difference between MarShawn Lloyd and someone like Kenneth Gainwell, because he has that explosive pass catching ability theoretically. And even if we do have an early down complement, he would still be the priority running back. My issue with MarShawn Lloyd is, as much as I have been drafting him, and I do firmly believe that every fantasy football draft is a great draft to take MarShawn Lloyd. We don't know if he's good. We don't. We hope he's good. My bank account hope he's good. It's similar to Jonathan Brooks. We do like the profile, but we just don't know what he is at this point. You'd like to think that a smart organization like the Packers, and to be fair, I think the Panthers, particularly recently, last couple of years, I mean, they've been making smart move after smart move. Shout out former PFFer Eric Eager, leading up the analytics department over there. Maybe that's why. But MarShawn Lloyd, man, he played all 12 snaps during the first 2 drives of the preseason. That's great. They view him as the every down handcuff, and he made it out healthy, man. Great day to be great there. But Chris Brooks was not involved. He has been activated off the NFI list, non-football injury, with that hamstring issue. And I do think whether it's Brooks, Pierre Strong, Damian Martinez, that is their backup running back room. If Josh Jacobs were not to be active, or maybe has some legal troubles going on, Lloyd would be the preferred guy, but I could see it being 50-50, 60-40. Maybe I'm wrong, and it would just be the 80% workhorse, snap rate for MarShawn Lloyd here. I just think he's probably, not that he's too small to be a 3-down back, but I think Brooks or someone else would be a nuisance here. Or they bring in a James Conner type or something on the ground. Maybe not. And Lloyd is tricky here. I could see him moving him up 5 spots. If you wanted to rank MarShawn Lloyd like RB12, I don't have a great disagreement for you there. I have him RB17 right now. RB18, Broncos RB RJ Harvey. Knocked around the ground last season, and now we're getting some Jonah Coleman hype, all right? So I've kind of been on the record saying I think the most likely Broncos running back to draft this year is no, because we're probably one injury away from it just being another 2-back committee. Both these guys, and Harvey and Coleman, are an injury away from being an injury away from really booming up the ranks here. And in this scenario, it would just be J.K. Dobbins, not Jonah Coleman, exiting the picture. But I do want to give Harvey a little bit of credit. I feel like the Jonah Coleman steam is maybe taking away a little bit too much love for RJ Harvey. Someone that, again, I've generally been fading, but the pass game ability is nice, guys. And as much as he, had early season booms against the Bengals and Cowboys, he looked freaking good in that Jaguars game too. Really nice, 40-yard touchdown run in that game, man. I think JJ Zacharyson, late round QB himself, he said it best. I try not to listen. I kind of hear about a lot of other fantasy takes like secondhand or on Twitter, because I just think it keeps me fresh in my mind by doing my own work. And I don't know. I used to, maybe 10 years ago, listen to more, and I would just find myself regurgitating stuff. I try to be unique and force myself to do all that, research on my own. Anyway, I heard through the grapevines that JJ was just saying RJ Harvey, he's an explosive pass catching running back in a committee backfield. Isn't that the guy we should be targeting? Again, I don't know if those were his exact words, but if they were, then he's right. That's usually what we're doing. So I'm probably getting a little lost in the weeds here. Only ran for 3.7 yards per carry. Wasn't all that efficient down the stretch, putting up RB1 numbers. He did work as the RB8 after their week 12 bye. And no, there wasn't Jonah Coleman here for that. And that is a concern. But RJ Harvey did catch 47 passes as a rookie. Similar to Kenneth Gainwell, that's the allure. I do think Coleman will come in, and similar to Kenneth Gainwell, be a Sean Tucker of sorts. And Coleman, I think, is a more complete running back and what he can do pass pro and receiving. But 82% of running backs catch 50 plus passes since 2020, turned in top 24 numbers. That's in RJ Harvey's potential range of outcomes. In full PPR, target the explosive pass catching running back. It's really that simple, I think. But RB18 for me, because I just don't think that full 3-down role would be there. But hey, low end RB2, that's still a useful guy to have in your lineup. RB19, I got Chargers running back Keaton Mitchell. I'm going with Mitchell, even though Kamani Vidal would also be involved. But I do think we could see a Gainwell-esque role in a best-case scenario for Keaton Mitchell. Again, I don't think we're ever in a situation where it's going to be 20-plus carries per game no matter what, but he got that starter's treatment, resting with a Marion Hampton. Reminder, Mike McDaniel allegedly put up wanted posters for Mitchell outside their GM's wall. And man, I know their freaking center already got hurt. Please don't let this happen again, but with a healthy offensive line in Los Angeles, with Mike McDaniel calling the plays, or Justin Herbert doing his thing, this is the perfect offense to expect the most out of 10 to 12 to 15. Then maybe this scenario if Marion Hampton misses time. This is the sort of offense to expect the most out of a part-time role that Mitchell could have, man. 6.3 career yards per carry. That's the second highest mark in the Super Bowl era. Shout out Mari DiMercado, number one. Only 19 receptions, but you look at it, you add a little context. He wasn't going to get those snaps ahead of Justice Hill in Baltimore. And it's been a fairly constant drumbeat throughout training camp that they are using Mitchell more in the pass game, even on some downfield wheel routes. This is the break in the ranks where I'm a little dubious of the full-time role unfolding. I'm more confident in Lloyd and Harvey over Mitchell, but some of the other guys we're going to talk through next are in pretty rough offenses, and I do think the Chargers one is a tiebreaker for me. I will take 13 combined carries and targets in Los Angeles over 17, 18 in Tennessee. I think. Sounds right, doesn't it? Keaton Mitchell, RB19. RB20, I got Alvin Kamara. This is another one that is tough. I got a little pushback saying, why is he this low? And I get it. Earlier this offseason, man, I was really hyping up Kamara just as someone. I rejected the idea he wasn't going to be on this team, which he's on the team. So what a win for Team Hartitz, you know. Kamara in 2024 is one of just 8 running backs to average 18 plus PPR points per game. I'm sorry. Since 2024, he's one of only 8 running backs to average at least 18 PPR points per game. Yes, last year, career worst marks in yards per carry and yards per catch. I think we can all agree his best days are in the rearview mirror. Similar to Woody Marks, though, he never gets any of the credit that we give Gentry or Judkins for operating in a piss-poor offensive situation. The offensive line ranked, I think, 28th in RB rush yards before contact. Nobody was doing anything in the first half of last season. It just wasn't working. The Spencer Rattler-led offense was not good. We only got 2 games of Kamara and Tyler Shuck. The first one, the Saints had like 40 offensive plays. It was ridiculous. The Rams just held the ball the entire game. The only true normal game of Kamara and Tyler Shuck, we got 115 total yards, and it was a near workhorse role. I could be wrong on this. I am just dubious that Kamara would go back to getting that true RB1, 20-plus touch per game role, even if something happened to Travis Etienne. There are a lot of other injuries in that backfield last year. I think if we have healthy versions of Devin Neal, Kendre Miller, and Audric Estime, no, none of them become someone we're actively targeting ahead of Kamara or anything like that. Kamara would be the guy. We're expecting him to catch passes and, still getting, I would think, 10 to 12 carries per game. I just think at this point in his career, he took the pay cut. They have Travis Etienne. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Kamara more so locked into the 1B role. And yeah, it shifts to 1A, but doesn't shift that much to 1A. I don't see his touches increasing by more than a few without Travis Etienne. I think that Estime and Kendre maybe just be like a disgusting 4-back, like mini rotation going on. Kamara would be the guy that we'd prioritize, obviously. I just really wonder if in the year 2026, Kellen Moore would still be willing to actually put 20-plus touches on his plate on a weekly basis. Could be wrong, though, of course. RB21, I'm going with Titans RB, Tajay Spears. I'd love to see him get the workhorse role, man. And I will say it was a promising game 1 development in the preseason. He really was used as like a 1B alongside Tony Pollard. He was getting traditional RB carries up the middle, even busted one breaking several tackles for a good 20-plus yard game. He's the RB1 in the NFL since entering the league and avoided tackles per touch. Now, sometimes this stat can be a little bit opportunity-based because Tyjae Spears is getting fed more in the passing game, hence me using per touch instead of per carry. Catching the ball in the flat is going to lead to a higher rate of forcing missed tackles than, having to run to the teeth of defenses. He looks good, though, man. He looks explosive with his opportunities. I know his knees are always something we got to kind of worry about. I do just worry that similar Kamara could be a little more of a Ray Davis, Ty Johnson-esque situation. Ty Johnson gets maybe a little more run than Ray Davis in a normal week, at least when he's healthy. But if something happens to James Cook, it becomes the Ray Davis show. Nicholas Singleton brings a lot more size to the equation. And I don't know if the Titans view him as a better running back than Tyjae Spears, but I do know with Brian Daboll in town and a new overall offensive brain trust, we have to question if they actually view Tyjae Spears as a viable 3-down workhorse running back, or if he's more of the scat back, regardless of who they want to have taking the majority of the carries. That said, 10 to 11 carries, 5 to 6 targets for an explosive pass catcher like Tyjae Spears. Can't be too mad about that. My RB21. Very similar argument for my RB22, Dylan Sampson. Amazing efficiency last season as a pass catcher. Literally the RB1 in yards and targets per route run. Some of it's a little bit skewed. Okay. 60-yard house call against the Raiders is doing a lot of legwork with that, but it wasn't a ridiculously small sample. See how many targets he had right now. He had 40 targets. It's not bad. I think it was out of like 30 running backs, or maybe even less, like 27, 28 running backs. So it's not one of these, minimum 16 targets, The problem for Sampson, I'd even really get into this with Tyjae Spears, but I should have. They're two horrible offenses. The Titans and Browns, if they ranked 31st and 32nd this year in scoring, we'd say, that makes sense. I like Todd Monken, but the offensive line and the consensus offensive line ranks, taking 10 or 12 different sources, 32nd. And maybe you think they're a little better than that. You like the new pieces they brought in. You're probably going to rank them like 27th, 25th. Move them up to 22nd for all I care. It's a bad offense. It's a bad offensive environment. As much as Sampson seems like the clear RB2 there, and he's getting the pass down work, I do go back to, again, my conversation with Zach Jackson. He was dubious that Sampson actually would be given this full-time role. And we did kind of see that play out a little bit last season, man. Week 1, when Judkins still wasn't on the team. Down the stretch after Judkins got hurt, we were seeing Rocket Sanders, amongst others, get more early down work. So I think Sampson, it's a new coaching staff, so we got to keep that in mind. I think it would be more of the Tyjae Spears sort of thing as opposed to a 3-down workhorse role. We are talking about the SEC leader in rushing in 2024, so I'm not saying Sampson can't do it, but it doesn't matter what I would do if I was leading the Browns. I have to think about what the Browns are going to do. Amani Marshall, Rocket Sanders. It would be gross. Maybe they bring back old friend Nick Chubb. I don't know. I just have a tough time believing Sampson would be entrusted with this 20-plus touch per game workload. I think he'd see a small gain in his rush attempts. Maybe a bigger than small, because he's probably not going to get that many behind Judkins. Let's say he's getting 5 carries per game with Judkins. I could see it going up to 10, 11. The targets, he's on the field more, so he sees more happen. But again, tough for me to get him too high, especially when we also consider that this offense is, going to suck. RB23, I'm going with Braelon Allen, guys. I could see this being off. I could see moving him up into more of that Brian Robinson range, Tyler Allgeier. That's the best case scenario, is he's not that much different than those guys. But I'm going to put some respect on the name of Isiah Davis, who's a big man. Big man. 6'1", 220. 5.6 yards per carry for his career. Mop up time. A lot of times they're passed down back, the 20-yard gain on a 3rd and 26 draw. I'm sure that's influencing it a little bit, but this dude's 6'1", 220 with pass catching ability, and he wasn't active for the preseason game where, Braelon Allen ripped off a cool 31-yard touchdown run. I think Braelon Allen's the RB2, but we've heard this even in the summer, man. It could be closer between Braelon and Isiah Davis than we are expecting. We hate the offense. Again, that's a big reason why they're slow. And we had that quote from Aaron Glenn, remember? And no, I didn't let the quote bother me much, if at all, about Breece Hall. But when Aaron Glenn calls us a 3-headed monster, that would imply he considers Isiah Davis to be at least in the same sphere as Braelon Allen. So I was surprised though. Breece Hall, who's not exactly a small dude, is the smallest running back in this running back room, man. Obviously, Braelon Allen's like 250. Dude's a rhinoceros out there. Hate the offense. I think Braelon would lead the way in carries, but Isaiah Davis could literally make him a zero in the pass down work and maybe even make things closer than like it's possible Isaiah Davis is just the more productive handcuff than Braelon Allen. Most likely answer, probably just no. RB24, I'm going with Chiefs RB Emmett Johnson, and this is the first one that I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe we would see a phone call to Kareem Hunt or someone else if the starter went down, in this case, Kenneth Walker. I'm surprised Kareem Hunt isn't on this roster right now. I really am. Because as great as Kareem Hunt is, I don't think it would cost more than $1 million or $2 million to get Kareem Hunt back at this point. They're clearly fine with the dude. That's why he's been on the team these last 2 seasons. And he was great in short yardage. It would be annoying for us in fantasy to draft Kenneth Walker knowing Kareem Hunt's going to be there to vulture stuff on the goal line. But if you're the real life Chiefs, that's the one kind of hole that you can point to in Kenneth Walker's game over the years. He hasn't been great at success rate in short yardage situations. Rashard Smith's tiny. And Mari DiMercato seems like he's on the outside looking in of making the team. I like Emmett Johnson. He's fine, but who do you trust more on 3rd and 1? Him or Kareem Hunt? Definitely Kareem Hunt. Awesome preseason debut for Emmett Johnson. Again, 59 rushing yards, also multiple really good plays nullified by penalty. 10 missed tackles forced if you include those plays. 8 if you don't. Don't care. No one else had more than 5. He passed the eye test. He can catch the ball. Seems to have some explosive ability. It's an offense, even if we don't love him in the year 2026. Still Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid led. I'm giving Johnson some love because even if they did bring back Kareem Hunt, it seems like Johnson's going to be the primary receiving back in that situation. And maybe Kareem Hunt would just be more so the short yardage guy, but it would be problematic. And it's the reason why I have Emmett Johnson at RB24. Let's say Kareem Hunt is not added in this, again, more and more ridiculous exercise we're doing today. I think if Kareem Hunt wasn't added, you'd have to consider Rashard Smith still getting some more gadgety work. They were not willing to put Rashard Smith on the field for like any pass pro last year. I think he only did it like in week 18 or something like that, if my memory serves correct. I could see going as high as like RB12 for Emmett Johnson, because you could say he's got more pass down upside than guys like Mason and Rodriguez. You could say I like the Chiefs more than the Falcons and the Cardinals. I don't think I can get Emmett Johnson past Kenneth Gainwell, but that's still a pretty decent jump there. If they don't sign Kareem Hunt, I just think they would. Handful more running backs to get to, guys. I did first want to give a shout out to our friends over at Splash Survivor. If you're anything like me, you'll be signing up for a few Survivor contests this year, and I will be playing over with our friends at Splash Survivor in both the RotoWire 100K NFL Survivor contest. This is a traditional Survivor League, $15 entry fee. There's also the RotoWire 50K Touchdown Survivor contest. This is player-based. You get to bet on any time touchdown being scored. That is a $25 entry fee. Again, chances to win 100K, 50K, at least be part of the group who does. Fantastic amounts of money being thrown around, but maybe that's not enough for you. Maybe you just want to beat me up and let me know about it. Well, you can also compete to do that because myself and Theo Greminger from Team RotoWire will be competing as well. Go check it out, splashsports.com/RotoWire, and we do have a nice promo code to help make it worth your while. Promo code RotoWire will get you 50% deposit match and a 100% payout boost. Again, splashsports.com/RotoWire. All right, guys, RB25 for me. I'm going with Kalen Black. He could be so much higher if we knew he was the actual handcuff to Christian McCaffrey right now, but I don't. I think he just returned. I'm recording this on Tuesday, August 18th. I think he just returned from the thigh injury that was keeping him out of training camp there for a good week or two. Jordan James, I believe, is still sidelined with the rib. Isaac Orendo is still banged up with the pec injury. We just never know with Kyle Shanahan, man. Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon. We've also seen him over the years. It gets to a certain point where he just doesn't. This happened to Trey Sermon, where he actually was finally the next man up, and they still had Kyle Juszczyk out there for 50% of snaps. Deebo Samuel's back in town. That's problematic. I lean Kalen Black. I've drafted him in the last round of some teams with Christian McCaffrey. I think he's a fine last round dart or whatever. He was apparently the 49ers number 2 ranked running back in this class. They seem to say that about pretty much everyone they draft, but that's neither here nor there. 90th overall pick. He does turn 25 in October or whatever. We're just looking at 2026. This is such a volatile group, but it could have some of the biggest rewards. 49ers RB2 battle continues to be one of the biggest things to watch because if we knew for sure it was Kalen Black, no doubt, could you put him ahead of Jonathan Brooks? Put him ahead of Rachaad White? You know what I'm saying? Some of the most valuable commodities in fantasy football have been Christian McCaffrey and whoever is Christian McCaffrey's backup. Right now, though, we just don't quite know for sure who his backup is. I lean Kalen Black. RB26, I'm going Cowboys running back Jaden Blue, guys. He was the RB2 in the preseason opener, but kind of sucked like he did last year. The fumbles apparently haven't been going away. We have heard about those from the scrimmage, and that was why he got doghoused last season. Lost one against Denver. Cowboys even recovered it. Didn't matter. It was Malik Davis the rest of the way. I forget where I saw it. I believe it was probably something from Zane, who, by the way, guys, if you are on the old Twitter sphere, give him a follow. Zane Dahani at DHANANIZAIN, Dahani Zane. Fantastic follow. This dude is up 24 hours a day, reading all the goodness, telling you what happened, quoting it out, giving love to whoever actually wrote the article, and then giving you the fantasy take. Great hire for Team Fantasy Life. Shout out to the former fam. I believe one of the articles that Zane was talking about was saying how if Jaden Blue or Phil Maffa, Malik Davis, if none of them managed to stand out here, Cowboys are a candidate to add a James Conner, to add a veteran running back, or to trade for someone if, God forbid, something happened to Javonte Williams. So similar to Kalen Black, these are high-powered offenses, man. I'm not talking about the Titans or Browns now. We're talking about the 49ers and the Cowboys. This has a potential to swing in a big way. I had an article go up before the preseason started, like the biggest outstanding questions. If I had to rank all those in fantasy importance, the 49ers and the Cowboys RB2 battle would be very, very close to the top. But there's a lot of ways this can go wrong. Blue could just not win the job. It could be Phil Maffa or Malik Davis. He could be stuck in that juice role that they're calling it, more like a Ty Johnson. He could also just be really bad at football, lose another fumble or two. Who even knows if he makes a team? Still 22. Theoretical explosive pass catching ability, even if we haven't really seen it. Right now, Jaden Blue's the next man up. Just very, very tentative on if that's going to stick. RB27, Giants, maybe RB2, Tyron Tracy. Is he even going to make the team? I don't know. They signed Najee Harris. That's not good. Devin Singletary looked better than Tyron Tracy when he was out there. He at least didn't get Jackson Dart killed. I was talking before about the potential for, because again, I'm sure you had the same first instinct as me. I think he blew the block, but he did look like he was kind of going out to the flat. So if Jackson Dart's setting the protection, maybe he messed it up and we don't just know the play call. But Harbaugh did say after the game, quote, "There's no way he should have been hit there. I mean, it just shouldn't have happened. That was a basic protection." And then you sign Najee Harris a couple days later with no injury to these guys. It really seems like that was a move made for pass protection. Tracy, if that had never happened, if he had the flu and just couldn't play, he'd be a hell of a lot higher. He'd be up probably RB 16, 17 range. I don't know if I can get him up to Gainwell status. That would be the high-end argument you could make. I think he'd be closer to MarShawn, Lloyd, and RJ Harvey. But man, last year, Tracy had 18.1 opportunities per game after Scadaboo's season-ending injury. Did some good things with it. But Devin Singletary, still 29. Now we added Najee Harris too. It just seems like a committee situation, which to be fair is kind of what Greg Roman, their mind of their run game there. Tough to tell with, Matt Nagy, Brian Callahan. My God, what an awesome offensive brain trust. So awesome. Everyone must love it. They signed Najee. I don't want anything to do with Tyron Tracy. RB28, I'm going with Jalen Wright. I said this. If you guys listen to the preseason takeaways, first of all, thank you. Always appreciate you guys hanging out. But I thought there was something weird about Gordon coming in briefly and then not playing again until the third quarter. And sure enough, he got an unsportsmanlike conduct flag for flipping the ball at a defender after the play. And new head coach Jeff Hafley promptly benched Ollie Gordon for the rest of the first half. So that's why Jalen Wright was ahead of Gordon 16-2 snaps in the first half. I'm happy we found that mystery. Really Sherlock Holmes is. So great job to everyone involved. Who knows who it's going to be, man? I think the answer is probably a committee of sorts. If you want to say, Ian, you're wrong, Ollie Gordon is the RB2. Okay, move him up by Braelon Allen, I guess. He's not cracking the top 20. I'll tell you that much. And I'll give Ollie Gordon some similar, like his success rate was better than the yards per carry numbers. He was mostly in there on short yardage situations, facing loaded boxes, but he didn't run away with that backup job last year. We saw Jalen Wright get a little more involved late and actually do some decent things. Ultimately, though, it's an offense that we could very well see finish 32nd in scoring. Wouldn't surprise us. And all the same offensive scoring and target problems that apply to Devon Achane that scare us would apply here, except we wouldn't even have the same sort of just, hey, yeah, this guy's at least going to get force-fed the football. Could it happen? Sure, but I do think it'd be more of a two running back committee between Wright and Gordon in an offense we hate and also in an offense not likely to overly feed them the ball in the pass game. 4 more, everyone. Bengals, RB Samaje Perine coming in as my RB29. This is, again, a situation. Perine could rank higher. If they didn't sign Kareem Hunt, I see almost zero scenario where something happens to Chase Brown. The Bengals go, well, shoot, Samaje and Brooks, looks like you guys are the last guys we got here. And I'll put some respect on Perine's name. I'm not sure if you kids out there know this, but the all-time NCAA Division I leader in single-game rushing yards, that's right, Oklahoma's Samaje Perine. Broke Melvin Gordon's record, who had it for like a week. I'm pretty sure before that was LaDainian Tomlinson all the way back in the early 2000s. A little history for you guys here. Perine's going to be 31 in September. He hasn't reached 100 rushes in the season since 2017. I could just see his role staying similar. Taj Brooks getting more carries, more than anything, calling Kareem Hunt, calling old friend Joe Mixon if he still has 2 feet attached to his body. Maybe bringing in Nick Chubb. Bring in anyone, man. Now, Najee signing with the Giants, that is one guy who's out of the picture. Let's look at the current free agents right now. I don't know what Mixon, the last report we had with Mixon was that he was telling people close to him that he was probably never going to play football again. Who knows the truth behind that? Austin Eckler's still out there. Antonio Gibson, my guy. Get him a job. I know he's coming back from the ACL. Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison. Yeah, there's not that many dudes, but we're going to see some guys get cut at the end of training camp. Maybe it could be a Trey Benson, of course. Very, very skeptical that the Bengals would just all of a sudden say, all right, it's your backfield, Samaje. We don't care that you're on the wrong side of 30. We don't care that you haven't had 100 rush attempts since 2017. We're just going to roll with it. If I'm wrong, though, yeah, that offense is going to be sick. I could certainly see an argument getting them up there by guys like Tyler Allgeier at a minimum. RB 30. Yep. That's where we're at. Colts running back Seth McGowan. This is wild, guys. Seth McGowan is a 7th-round rookie. He led the way in the first game of the preseason with DJ Giddens hurt. He lost a fumble on the goal line, but there's a little bit of controversy with this. I think if you look at the kind of angle, you can argue he actually passed the plane with the ball, and then it got ripped out. It was officially ruled a fumble. 7th-round rookie on the surface scares me, but there's a little bit of context here. This was a former 4-star recruit. He started his career at Oklahoma, but he got kicked off the team because he was involved in an armed robbery and assault investigation, allegedly because a dude refused to sell him some of the devil's lettuce. So yeah, the more you know. I would be very, very surprised if Jonathan Taylor ceased to exist and they said, all right, Seth McGowan, you're our dude. DJ Giddens is there. General Ulysses Bentley IV is there. I think Kareem Hunt could be there. Is Zach Moss still playing football? Give him a call. You know, we've seen the Colts do similar things like this. They just brought in Keenan Allen. They brought in Phillip Rivers last year. If there's any organization that we should expect not to be afraid of bringing in some old veteran that you barely even remember is still playing football, it's the Colts. Seth McGowan, RB30. RB31, Ravens running back Adam Randall. Maybe we could move up a little bit. I do like his profile, man. Freaky athlete. Actually started off his career playing wide receiver, 6'2", 230 with 4.5 speed. Kind of got that Antonio Gibson provocative skill set that gets fantasy nerds like me going. So Justice Hill, 268 career carries, 149 targets. He would be involved, which hurts the upside for whoever would be the backup, but I don't think Justice Hill's role would change all that much without Derrick Henry. He played more, but there's a reason why I'm saying Randall or someone else would be the more clear handcuff that we want over Justice Hill. Maybe not. That said, he got the run in the first preseason game because Rasheen Ali was banged up. The Ravens, similar to the Colts, similar to Titans and some of these other teams. I mean, let's face it, we've seen a lot of unks getting to wear that purple jersey over the years, and I do think that would persist here. So unproven rookie, still learning the nuances of the running back position for a team with a new offense, very much in Super Bowl or bust mode, more or less. You know, you got Lamar Jackson. That's just the expectation every single year. Adam Randall, RB31. And last, but truly not least, this is just the most effed up situation to try to consider in this, you know, effed up sort of simulation we're living in. But RB32, Seahawks running back George Halani. I just didn't even know how to consider this. If you want to say Charbs is a starter, then do I just rank Jadarian Price up there? I don't know. Or if you say in this case, which was what I'm kind of doing, like Charbs already out of the picture, and then we say Jadarian Price is out of the picture. Well, I guess George Halani is the next man up. We don't know for sure. He got the run in the preseason game, but that was with Emmanuel Wilson sidelined with a knee injury. Velus Jones, fun fact, Velus Jones is on the Seahawks right now as a running back. He's there. Kenny McIntosh has gotten some run. I don't know. This one just breaks my brain. This is the one where I was just like, all right, RB32, get down there. I could see him signing one. Maybe I'm underrating the great George Halani. Apologies to the George Halani fan club, fans, family, anyone that may be watching this video. Just with Charb and Price. And Wilson being that annoying, you know, big man, short yardage, early down, goal line sort of running back. George Halani, RB32. And with that, we're closing up this episode of Fantasy Football with Ian Hartitz. I guess we're just rolling with that as the name. I don't know. Works for me. Works for you guys, I guess. Let me know if you just hate it. Want me to come up with something better. Let me know if you liked the video. Maybe you didn't like the video. If you would rearrange these ranks in a considerable fashion, you know? Or not. Maybe just like the video. If you made it this far, I really would appreciate that. And hit the subscribe button. Tell a friend. Call your mom. Say what's up. Tell her to subscribe. Why not? I'll take it. Just saying. Probably don't have to do that. You can talk about life and whatever. But anyway, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I enjoyed going through this exercise. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Gonna have plenty more good content going though. Next couple of days, I'm gonna do my favorite draft pick in every round of a Yahoo draft. Gonna have ESPN coming shortly after that. Also gonna be breaking down my favorite pick position. Spoiler, it is gonna be the 101 if all things are possible. In general, though, I really do like the early range 1 through 5. I feel the best about those 5 players. And then, well, you know what? You can watch the video when it's out on Friday, I believe. But yeah, that's going to do it for me, guys. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you liked the video, please like the video. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.